It was the flagship project of Africa's Union Agenda 2063. Well, without taking much time, Mr. Tayo Ojuri has been already in the studio, and we've been taking the. Well, he understands that that's the season. That is what is tough. But this is also very important. Looking at this single Africa air transport, you're a major player in this. He's like I said, you were part of a meeting. Mr. Tayo Ojuri is a managing partner with Aglo Aviation Support Services Limited. So that I introduce him again formally. Yes, thank you so much. Tell us more about this, please, so that we understand what really stand to gain.
It's good to set the foundation of what the single African air transport market is all about. Let's go back to 1960, whereby most of African countries got their independence. And with the independence went the ownership of setting up their own individual airlines. And the fallback of that was that you had lots of airlines and national airlines that were protective of their markets and their share. You have like the Francophone countries set up Air Afrique. So with that fast track to 1988, where African presidents went ahead to actually say, we want, we want to have a union. And that was actually part of what evolved out of where we saw the EU evolve, when we saw the Asian market grow due to inflation and all the economic challenges, as well as you had the North American between tripartite agreement between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, the NAFTA agreement. So with that, we saw a need to actually, in 1998, have a single African transport market. But that was actually what we call the Yamoussoukro Declaration. But with that protectionist vision and that challenge, it was not put, that was not put to pen by the leaders until 2022.
Wow. So
with that, we now realize to actually implement this, which is the Yamoussoukro Declaration, we need to have the single African air transport market. And what is it about? It's just to have have a unionized, we already have 1.4 billion people on the continent. With that 1.4 billion people, and which is 12% of the global population, unfortunately, we're just 1 to 2% of 1 to 2% of the global air transport service. So we need to actually have more traction. And what traction is to start and have a better leverage is to actually have better penetration within the African continent amongst the countries themselves. So with that, we actually saw this is what the single African air transport market is all about, being able to actually engage all the countries, despite the language barriers, despite the cultural barriers, despite all the political barriers, actually now have been able to trade and have transportation across that. And that transportation is actually, at this moment, we're actually grappling with just 14.5% of that. If this is opened up, we have 19 countries signed up to it now. If this is opened up, we'd have 51% of intra-African markets.
I think about 30-something countries have signed at the moment.
Well, signing and actually putting...
That is what I want to ask you. Signing and obliging, opening up the air, opening up the market is my question.
That is where the big challenge is. So we have 19 countries that have actually signed and committed to not only the political commitment, ministerial commitments, and all that needs to ensure that this process is actually adhered to and complied with. So in terms of taxes, in terms of formalities, and let's give an example. For example, within the West African sub-region, we have the ECOWAS, and you can actually have the Nigerian travel across and go across the 15 countries within West Africa. It's not the same with the Nigerian passport to go to about 28 or 30 countries across Africa. And these countries are already opened up even to other European and other countries across the global space. So we see a challenge whereby we need to address customs, we need to address immigration issues with the protective formalities that they have. And so once this is addressed, which was part of what the African Civil Aviation Commission did in Abuja last week, what they addressed was, okay, these are the challenges. How do we address these challenges and how do we move forward? Because moving forward would actually ensure that 60,000 jobs are created within the continent. And we see a growth of about $4.5 billion on an annual basis. Because when you don't forget, when there's more business within Africa itself, rather than going out, a study has shown that if you actually, as it is now, for you to go to Dakar, Senegal, sometimes you have, which is 3 to 5 hours, you have to go out to come in.
To come in.
Or if you have to go from Kenya to Dakar, you have to spend 13 hours, which is actually not convenient and is high cost. So all this, when we look at the tangible and intrinsic values that are involved in doing business amongst Africans themselves, is actually better. And then we're able to build jobs, we're able to ensure backward integration, because what we are experiencing to larger term now is you find out that most of the produce are actually produced in Africa, but taken out in raw form. So we should actually have a backward integration formula or policy, which would ensure that all these are produced and developed, and there's a value addition to this product, and trade is enhanced amongst Africans to boost the economy and to boost the value of the living standard of Africans before it's actually pushed across intercontinental.
I think that works side by side with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Because when we talk about trade among African countries, the airlines will always play a role.
Yes.
Transportation, logistics plays a role when you're talking about the movement of produce from. So I think all works together. But like I said, can we specify some benefits for a country like Nigeria? What do we stand to benefit? Job creations and all of that?
Yes. And let's be clear, the after is actually a subset of this.
Of course. Oh,
because
great.
you cannot still have a
single.
single. And trade is not about air transport alone.
Yeah.
So the after deals with all. It's all encompassing about all the aspects of trade. So, and the policies as well. So the single aviation air transport market deals with just the air transport part of it. But with the after, we're able to ensure that Nigeria, and this has been an issue, we don't want to be a dumping place. And a dumping, yes, we're a hub, we have the population, we have the location, but ensure that we actually are able to produce as well. We have challenges with manufacturing. So the previous speaker actually talked about power being a catalyst. If we have the power, the ease of doing business, and actually the infrastructure, we're able to manufacture and standardize the products that are going out of Nigeria, so that once the products come in exchange and we're buying, there's actually another set of products that go out, and we're able to actually increase our foreign exchange earnings. Honestly,
it's a big one. Any updates about the Nigerian Air in all of this? Because when Nigerian Air also comes in, that's also our own, it will be our baby, and we want to carry that. So would that not affect all of this conflict of interest in all of this?
Different opinion in my view. We have two things. You talked about 33 days to the end of the term.
Yeah.
That is in court. So
and it's also in court.
Still in court. So with 33 days, the way forward and which the AON has promoted is, why can't we have private sector involvement?
Yes.
Private sector is the driver of the economy. It should be. We should have flag carriers, which are individual airlines that are well positioned to operate within Nigeria, within West Africa, and actually build partnerships and code shares and interline to go global. So we can actually build that formidable airline rather than starting a government-backed airline.
Government-backed airline. But last week there was a strike and actually affected activities. Of course, many would tell you stories of how they couldn't meet up with all the plans and engagements they had sometime last week. What are you hearing? Are you sure that this warning is just going to be a warning and we won't have a total shutdown at a point if this is not addressed?
Interesting. Yes, Tolu, you're bringing up. It actually crippled the economy because travel aviation, we leverage on the time, space, safety, and just the convenience of travel. So when you're, most of those that, don't forget that those that traveling actually have to go for meetings. And when their flights are canceled or when there's a shift in schedule, you find out that actually disturbs meeting schedule and they lose money from it. They have to reschedule or they lose their tickets or they even if they're paying extra for an extra night in their city of travel. So all this said, it's better that the government, which have started talking to the union leaders and addressing these issues, which has been a long time outstanding issues, to actually ensure that they repeat or just a full-scale strike will not start. Yeah. Because you did say we're counting down to the change of the administration. So with the strike and lots of movement across states and across the nation now, that will not be in the best interest for the outgoing administration or for the incoming administration.
But obviously, you know that everyone is setting an agenda for the new administration. I've had the manufacturers done their regular economists already coming up with some low-hanging fruits, like they always call them, for the aviation sector, which remains very strategic. What are some of the opportunities you see therein for the incoming? The opportunities are always, we can always, give opportunities to investors that are ready to bring the money in once we know that in the long term, the proceeds will come. I think that is where we should be thinking now. But what are your thoughts? What are the low-hanging fruits for your sector?
Don't forget that government is a continuum. And within the continuum, aviation is not just a Nigerian aviation. Yes, you find out that it's not just new businesses coming in. Aviation are airlines that have been in this country and having flight and operations across the country. So we're dealing with, one, the foreign exchange challenges, volatility of foreign exchange, which is not only affecting 80% of our flight operations, but the training as well, and our ability to actually ensure that we get spares, we're able to actually ensure that our staff are trained. And over and beyond that, it's actually affecting the cost of Jet A1 fuel, which is 40% of our operations. So we are buying at about approximately ex-Lagos about $7.50 per liter today. So if you go further north, you're buying about $7.80 or $7.60. That is affecting the cost and of price of ticket. And by the time you get your ticket price in Naira, to change it, you're buying at the parallel market because of the non-availability of the Forex. Forex is a big issue, which affects a gamut of opportunities or aspects of our operations. Then we have an existing issue of about $802 billion, which, as at today, the price of tickets is, because the NAFEX exchange of the ticket prices at the dollar rate is changing as at today.
I thought we were trying to clear some of this.
Yes, they were, but it's not. Maybe you tell me if that has been addressed yet. But the where is not mean it has been done. So with that not being done now, with 802 as at the end of March, we're now in April 26, we find out that it's going to affect the price. It decimates the value of the ticket that was bought earlier this year. Even if is a longer hanging fruit of actually paying this money out, the value of what the airlines, the foreign airlines are getting is less than what they were bargaining for. So they are now forced to sell tickets to us at a higher cost, with some are actually enforcing that you buy the tickets in foreign exchange, or you just actually pay an arm and a leg. So that's not, which is not good for travel, which is anti-CETAM actually. Maybe it's an opportunity. We'll do lots of local summer break, and or maybe discover Africa more.
You know, and that's what I think we need to do, discover Africa more. Interesting conversation as usual, Mr. Tayo Ojuri. Thank you so much for staying in. Managing partner, Aglo Aviation Support Services Limited, for always being there. We appreciate you.
It's always a pleasure.
All right, then. Well, let's join Mr. Rotimi Fakayejo to speak around the markets for today. Mr. Fakayejo, the market is significantly up today, 0.82% up. Gainers, we have the likes of Academy Press, Livestock, Total, Honeywell Flack, and Cadbury. For losers, we have Fitson, Lincolnshire, Fidelity Bank, Mansard, Jais Bank. How are you reacting to this?
Well, I think all in all, the market remains resilient. And what actually brought the market down before is actually what is helping the market up again. Because if you look at the share price movement in the stock of Airtel Africa, it's quite amazing today. The stock gained 52 naira. That is about 3.5 to 4% of the share price that has gone upwards today. And I think this may not easily end as we see more of upward movement in that particular stock. And knowing fully well that Airtel Africa is the most capitalized stock on the exchange. And that definitely has impacted significantly on the market. So whenever it comes down, it means a lot. Whenever it goes up, it impacts positively. So I believe that when you look at the market breadth for today as well, it's quite positive. And some of the stocks that were coming down before, maybe the likes of Zenith Bank and all of that, we saw a about gain in Zenith Bank today. So I think the Q1 results that are coming for some stocks are quite reflective in the price change that we have seen today. Same thing for Total Fina. So, and I think to me, I believe that the market operators know how these things goes, and we are not shaking whenever we see any downward trend, because we know that definitely the market will take shape once again.
Well, I like that line. We are not shaky. Nigerian markets remains resilient at all times. I want to take you directly to discuss the performance of Transcorp. I spoke to the group chief executive officer earlier on the show, and the performance seems to be so impressive. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's been a long-standing company, and is the major conglomerate listed on the exchange right now. So I believe strongly that we're going to see much better days to come for the stock. And when we begin to see a better performance coming from the power sector, of which they are major operator, and maybe in the food sector too, which they are also very much visible. I think the better days are actually ahead for Transcorp. And I want to believe whoever is buying right now knows what he is doing. And definitely we have so much to reap for it in the future.
I must thank you so much, Mr. Fakayejo. Do enjoy the rest of your day and have a productive one.